11 discs, not a single blade among them, no curved vane, no angled scoop, nothing a mechanical engineer would even call an airfoil. Just flat, smooth circles stacked a few millimeters apart on a threaded rod. I hooked this stack up to a shop compressor, cracked the valve, and within about 2 seconds, the individual discs disappeared into a single gray blur, spinning fast enough to hum. No blades were damaged, worn, or missing. None were ever there to begin with. And the strangest part is that this isn't some fringe experiment I dreamed up. It's a design Nikola Tesla patented over a century ago, and it's still sitting in most people's junk drawers waiting to be built. Every turbine you've ever interacted with, from a jet engine to a box fan to the turbocharger under a car's hood, works the same basic way. Angled blades catch a moving fluid and get shoved by it. It's intuitive and it works, but it comes with a manufacturing headache. Blades have to be cut to precise curves. They wear down fastest exactly at the tips where they're doing the most work, and at very small scales they actually get worse, not better, because thin fluid tends to slip right past a thin blade edge instead of transferring its energy into it. Shrink a blade small enough, and you're mostly just stirring air instead of harnessing it. Around 1906, Tesla looked at that same problem from a different angle and asked something almost nobody else was asking at the time. What if you got rid of the blades completely? Not simplified them, not redesigned them, removed them. He patented the answer in 1913, a stack of flat, smooth, parallel discs, spaced narrowly apart, spinning off nothing but a fluid's own internal stickiness dragging against a surface. Tesla built and tested versions of it himself, and the physics held up. What didn't hold up was 1913-era manufacturing. Producing discs that were flat enough and spacing them consistently enough at those tight tolerances was genuinely difficult and expensive with the tooling of the era. Tesla moved on to other projects that found industrial backing faster, and the bladeless turbine sat quietly in patent archives for most of the 20th century, not because it was suppressed, but because nobody could machine it cheaply enough to matter yet. That changed starting in the 1990s, when fluid dynamics researchers and small-scale engineers building microturbines and pumps rediscovered the design, precisely because modern manufacturing had finally caught up to what Tesla asked for 80 years earlier. And because a design with no blades to machine or replace turned out to be a real advantage in low-maintenance equipment, even if it never beat a bladed turbine on raw efficiency. Here's the principle underneath all of it, and you've actually already felt it. Pour water out of a glass and watch a thin film cling briefly to the side instead of falling away cleanly. That's the boundary layer effect. Any fluid, air included, forms a microscopically thin layer right against any surface it flows across, and that layer moves at nearly the same speed as the surface itself, dragged along by molecular friction alone, with nothing to physically grip. Now stack dozens of smooth discs a few millimeters apart and blow air tangentially across their outer edges, at an angle rather than straight in. That thin, clinging layer drags each disc around in a slow spiral toward the center. One disc alone barely responds. But stack enough of them close together, each one contributing its own small drag, and the effect compounds into something with real rotational force. It's the same reason a flat palm swept quickly across a dusty tabletop drags the dust along with it. No fingers, no hooks, nothing shaped to catch anything, just contact and relative motion. For Hidden Fix Lab's version of this, the material swap is the whole build. Instead of Tesla's machined metal discs, you're using old CDs or DVDs, which happen to already be flat, smooth, centered, and nearly identical to each other in thickness. Everything a 1913 machinist struggled to produce by hand, mass-produced for you for free. Realistically, if you're starting completely from zero, a spindle of blank discs, threaded rod and nuts, small washers for spacing, a capped length of PVC pipe for the housing, and a way to feed compressed air in, you're looking at somewhere around $20 to $30 in a couple of hours. Most of that spent drilling centered holes and getting the spacing even. If you already have scrap discs and a compressor sitting around, it drops to almost nothing. The build itself is straightforward. Drill a centered hole through each disc size to fit your rod snugly. Thread the discs on one at a time, separating every single one from the next with an identical washer, roughly 2 to 3 millimeters of gap, held exactly consistent from disc to disc. Tighten nuts on both ends so the whole stack locks together as one rigid unit. This is where most people sabotage their own build. Uneven spacing. Tighten one gap more than another and the stack wobbles the instant air hits it, wasting most of the force on vibration instead of rotation. Consistency between every gap matters more than the exact gap size you pick. Mount the finished stack on an axle inside your PVC housing, with an air inlet positioned near the outer edge of the discs and angled, not aimed straight at the center. This is the second place builds go wrong. People assume blasting air directly through the gaps means more force and more spin, and instead get a weak, sputtering result. The air needs to skim tangentially across the flat faces near the rim and spiral inward. the same way it would drag along that boundary layer. The angle of the inlet matters more than the pressure behind it. Open the valve and the response is immediate in a way a bladed fan never is. No gradual ramp up, just a near-instant jump to speed, the discs blurring together within a couple of seconds and settling into a smooth, high-pitched whine that sounds nothing like the choppy whoosh of a normal fan. The housing stays close to room temperature while it's running, since this is friction and pressure doing the work rather than combustion generating heat. And this is genuinely just a demonstration of the physics, not a power source. A real Tesla turbine capable of meaningful output is built from rigid metal discs and driven by steam or high-pressure gas at a completely different scale. This desktop version exists so you can feel the principle work in your hands, not to run anything off of it. A few things worth respecting before you try this. Compressed air is not a toy. Always wear eye protection, keep the assembly firmly mounted, and never stand in line with the axle or exhaust while it's spinning. PVC pipe has a pressure rating, and exceeding it turns a science demo into shrapnel. So keep your air source well within the pipe's rated limits, and start with a low pressure test, using only 3 or 4 discs before scaling up. CDs are plastic with a hair-thin metal coating, not solid metal, so at higher pressures or speeds they can delaminate or crack. Treat any wobble or unusual noise as a sign to stop immediately, not push through. If a stack goes out of balance, you're out a few dollars in washers and CDs, not a working turbine, and that's fine. Rebalancing is part of the process. What's actually satisfying here isn't that you built a jet engine out of trash. It's that a fabrication problem specific enough to stall a working idea for most of a century turned out to have an answer sitting in a stack of scratched CDs nobody wanted anymore. Tesla didn't fail at physics. He ran out of the manufacturing precision his own idea needed 100 years before it existed cheaply as landfill.